Folks, an official welcome to everybody tonight. A welcome here to Marlies Jacobs, who's a first-time visitor. Ross Saunders gave her the details. And so while everybody was coming on, I think she was like the third person on the call. But Ian has been explaining that we're coming from all over the country and our neighboring countries. So welcome to Durban, Cape Town, Johannesburg, and Swakopmund in Namibia. I think those are the broad areas that we've just covered. We are extending a very special welcome to Joni Peddie, who's going to be our speaker tonight. And I'll introduce her a little bit more in just a moment. But just to make this official, this is the virtual chapter of the Professional Speakers Association of Southern Africa. And I'm the chapter president for the virtual chapter. Ian Hatton is our deputy president. And anybody who is a member of PSA and a member of another chapter, you're welcome to be a partner of this chapter as well, especially if you'd like to join us and join our committee and help out with some of the logistics and planning and preparing and taking care of the members. That would be wonderful. But PSA does welcome members who would like to join us, obviously join the association as well as join this meeting as a member, but it is open to anyone who wants to attend. So if you ever see any of the chapter meeting topics and you think that it's worthwhile for a colleague of yours who might not be a member of PSA or might not be a speaker, please extend the invitation. We would love to share what we have with people far and wide. So anytime anyone wants to join us, they are welcome to attend the meeting at no charge. If they actually join as a member, then that's a slightly different conversation, but we can have that one-on-one. Now, represented in this room are a couple of people who are past national presidents. So we'll start with Roger Knowles, who's past national president, past KZN chapter president, and current KZN chapter president. Welcome, Roger. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
In your many
Great to be here.
Good. And Roger, you recently won the Educators Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
So congratulations to that.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Then we have Richard Mulvey, who is twice past national president, past KZN chapter president, past Cape chapter president, and my husband. And also a winner of 2 awards from PSA, the Hall of Fame and the Founders Award. So congratulations, my love, on choosing me and then all the other stuff. And then we have Bruce Wade in the room, and I'm going to mention Bruce not because this is the 3rd time Bruce and I are meeting today. Don't worry, love, there's nothing going on. But Bruce is also the very newest member of PSA. He's joined the Cape chapter, but he's also a part of a lot of our virtual things. So that's wonderful to have you here, Bruce, and welcome to PSA again.
Thank you.
And then welcome to our friends and visitors far and wide. It's wonderful to have you here. And then Joni Peddie. Joni is wonderful. We love Joni. She's full of energy, full of resilience. She's always kind of coaching us in various situations when we have conferences, when we have meetings, when we have exco meetings, telling us to sit, not sit down the whole time, but to get up and stretch. And no, you can't have that donut, Charlotte. It's got too much sugar in it. And what are you doing drinking tea after 2 o'clock in the afternoon? So Joni is always looking out for our resilience, and she's going to be sharing with us today what it takes for us to be more physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally resilient. And while it's not strictly about our speaking topics or building our speaking business or building our brand or getting more clients, I think it is an essential conversation to have. Because when we're in front of an audience, we need to be there and be engaged with them and sharing with them. We are there holding their space, and that is our responsibility during, whether it's an hour keynote or a full day facilitation or a workshop. We really are responsible for that space, and we have to take care of the audience while we're taking care of ourselves, while we're communicating all this information, while we're dealing with anything extraneous, while we're dealing with our own physical and mental and spiritual selves and everything else that is going on. It is exhausting. And we need to be able to make sure that we can take care of ourselves properly in that space. And so Joni's going to talk about that. For me, what Joni shared has been really, really powerful. And we've had a number of conversations over the last, 2 years. We've got to know each other better. And Joni always has very insightful advice. One of the things I noticed earlier this year I was doing a 2-hour kind of a mastermind session, a facilitated session with a new friend of mine, and she sees me speak a couple of times, and she pays a lot of attention. She does a lot of things that Joni does as well. But this friend of mine can tell me when I check out. She said, you are halfway through a sentence and it's like you just ran out of energy and you weren't there. You finished the words and everybody else would just think maybe you got a bit slower, but she could tell that I just checked out during that time. And, you know, I needed that feedback, and I know that I need to take care of that in my space. So that is why we're very excited to have Joni share with us. But on another note, it's important to have Joni here as well, because Joni is our new Deputy National President. So Ross Saunders is our national president. Joni is next. I'm vice president, so I come after Joni, which means that I've got 2 years to get half as fit as either Ross or Joni. You've really, really set the bar there for me. So I'm working very hard. I was at gym last night. But yes, it's good for us to get to know Joni as well. So Joni's in the Johannesburg chapter. And as you can see, you know, we're representing all the different chapters here tonight. But it's good for us to be able to communicate across these lines and get to know each other. Please remember, as PSASA members, if you go to another province where there's a chapter and you can meet with that, you can attend that chapter meeting, you can attend that for free. You don't have to pay extra. So find out when the other chapters have their meetings and make an effort to try and synchronize your travel with them or spend an extra day there to get to know your colleagues in different places. It's really powerful. And if you happen to be in a different place and you cannot synchronize, then phone somebody and take them out for coffee. Get to know your colleagues in different parts of the country, because the time will come when you will find an opportunity for collaboration or co-creation, finding ways to work together. And that's what we're all about, which is very exciting. So Joni, I'm going to hand it over to you. Joni is going to share with us for a while. I believe, Joni, did you want us to interrupt you with questions or to save them or to put them in the chat box?
Interrupt.
Interrupt. All right.
Yep.
So you can interrupt. I suggest you either put notes or indicate if you got your camera on, put your hand up or something. Ian is going to pay attention to that just to make sure that we don't miss you. So if Joni misses it, Ian will catch it and then we'll get those questions answered, okay? And then once we've gone through the session, then we'll probably break away into groups again. We have a bit more of a conversation, then we'll come back. All right. Good. Joni, over to you. Thank you very much for coming to share with us. We're very excited.
Pleasure. Pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. Right. So let's, Ian very kindly gave me a IT lesson last night, which is great. So let's hope that all that's, there we go, Ian. Are we rocking and rolling? Yes, he's nodding his head. Okay, fantastic. And are you hearing me loud and clear?
Yes, we are.
Excellent. Okay. I'm not going to speak about me in terms of what I do in a great lot of detail. I'm going to really share from the heart as a speaker, what are the things, what are the quick win techniques that I use? And most specifically, it's to Charlotte's earlier point, it's such a draining profession to be in because you're giving, giving, giving. So in what way can we continue to be future fit? And how do we optimize what we do and the value proposition that we provide? So I decided to call my business Resilient People. That was a relaunch that I did earlier this year. And that is my central value proposition and purpose, because I truly believe that you can prepare in order to be resilient. So we often talk about resilience as the bounce back, but as a speaker, if you prepared to self-manage in a slightly different way, when challenges, obstacles, things fall apart for you in whatever way, you can actually make sure that not only do you bounce back, but you bounce forward with agility. So this word is important to me. I hand on heart, wake up every day thinking, what am I going to do differently for the teams that I work with and the groups that I work with and the talks that I do to enable this resilience to be central to everybody. So we know this drum I'm not going to beat for very long, but not only are you suffering in this attention economy where there's a lot of drain and, you know, being always on, but your delegates are doing that too. I was working today with a bank And I actually had to, what I call, name it to shame it with the team that I was working with, because one guy came in an hour late. I was doing the Enneagram, so he had lost the foundation of what I was talking about, and then he, as a trader, was on his phone the entire time. So my invite was for him to exit and actually either be in the room and present or be out the room. So to Charlotte's point earlier is that, you know, you start to observe when people are really grounded and present. And we've got to work doubly hard because of the industry we've chosen to be in. So in this always on environment, what are we going to do vastly differently? I decided tonight to start in a very different way to what I normally do when I speak about resilience. I decided to start with emotional intelligence. So many of you might have seen this from the World Economic Forum, but the future world of work, those are the top 10 soft skills that your clients are looking to develop. And these similarly should be the top 10 soft skills that you are looking to develop. So in crafting your way and differentiating your talks and finding the journey client work that we're all looking for, which is ongoing, I would like to say that emotional intelligence or emotional quotient is something that each of us need to focus on, specifically relating to the topic of resilience. I was quite fortunate 3 weeks ago to dial into the United Nations, and they had their first ever Emotional Intelligence Summit, and it was an event that anyone could dial into, which was lovely. And I just thought this was a really nice slide where they spoke about sustainable development goals worldwide and how EQ really forms the foundation of all of this. So emotional intelligence is really, in its simplest form, it's being smarter with your feelings. There are many competencies. So self-awareness and self-management, I always speak about as your right leg, and social awareness and relationship management always as your left leg. So as speakers, we're walking this journey called life. We're loving what we do. We're trying new things. We're trying to, you know, sell courses online and do various things. You really need to know, what am I good at? So my self-management, and how can I integrate with others in a vastly different way? So that is an underpinning. Bottom right is actually, if you don't have that, you don't enable your well-being. So I can't sit here and say, rah, 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 I do this perfectly. And in fact, a couple of years ago when I was working for Unilever as a client, I had burnout. And the World Health Organization has now classified burnout 3 weeks ago as a classified disease. And I don't know if any of you have experienced burnout, but it's debilitating. And actually, for me, it was incredibly embarrassing that I literally had to spend a month in bed. So I've, since that particular episode, which was about 14 years ago, I've worked really hard at how do I self-manage. My personality style is one of high energy, determination, drive, and I sometimes switch off from here down in terms of just go, 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 go. And like many of us here, we'll deliver during the day, and then what happens, we get home at night, have supper, do some good family stuff, and then we're back on our computers, designing something, researching, clarifying, and modifying what we're doing for our clients. So we've really got to have a look at what we're doing differently to manage our stress levels and, of course, enable our well-being. After my client today, I had to go and see another client for a one-on-one coaching, and deeply saddened by this client coming back from a memorial service today. And her memorial service that she attended was her grade 7 daughter's classmate who had committed suicide last Tuesday. So why do I say this? Worldwide, we have a lot of trauma, and I'm really hoping from a self-management, your own resilience, your own emotional intelligence, that we start to work with our younger generation as well. So let's look at ourselves. My resilience pie, which is similar to many other resilience pies, looks like this. There are 9 slices to the pie. And you might want to just do this visually on your own. Just go slice 1, spirituality and reflection, and right through back up to 9, and place a dot closest to the outside, just as an imaginary exercise of the circle, to say, which of these dimensions do you feel most fulfilled in? So it's not the most amount of time that you spend, but in order to have a balanced life, we've got to have a look at, and it's never going to be perfect, but what are you doing to maximize the 9 very different dimensions? I've got some noise coming through. Anybody else hearing that? Yes, Roger's nodding.
I'll sort it out. Got it.
Great. Okay, yes, it's gone. Excellent. So I'm not going to spend a long time here, and feel free if you would like to use this for yourself or even in the work that you do, you're welcome to get this from me and duplicate it. It's something that I got from the Enneagram Institute in New York, and I like to use this as a big pre-frame and a helicopter view because resilience has so many dimensions. I have a Yorkie that wants attention and he's not going to get it from me, so you might hear him bark. The focus that we are doing here is the focus on body health. So there, we could do 9 of these virtual sessions, but body health is what we're doing. So I like to approach resilience from a neuroscience perspective. What can we do differently? And what do we choose to do differently? And I'm always inspired by reading neuroscience books because we can develop new brain cells. So some of you who I've chatted to over the years, I can't wait to tell people that you can develop 700, as in develop stroke grow, 700 new neurons per day. So if you're doing the right stuff, you are growing these neurons. If you're doing the right stuff, guess what? These neurons will even talk to one another. So the synapses between the neurons will work really well. So we should be thinking about this conductor in our body. This conductor either propels us forward to feel great, to be strong, to be energetic, or it can debilitate us. So what you think and what you believe, you often will become. In terms of the noise and the internal dialogue in your brain is, I'm hoping that you're not thinking, hey, Joni, you're not going to be talking about jogging, juicing, and yoga. No, I'm not. No jogging, juicing, and yoga. This is resilience with quick win techniques for those of us who are time poor and stress rich. We're jolly, jolly busy. What can we do differently? And I'm going to share a brain emptying technique with you later on. But just to say that if you're going to be present and mindful in the moment, we've each got to learn ways of emptying our brain. So what are you doing in the moment while you're presenting? What are you doing prior to getting to a conference room? And obviously, what are you doing at the end of the day to assimilate and integrate the learnings of the day and also put the day aside so that you do live in the present moment? Stress is the big hairy animal that we are all facing. And I'm going to use reboot as the acronym here. And it's, of course, when our computer crashes or malfunctions, we've got to switch it off and switch it on and hope like hell that it does switch on again. I don't know if any of you have been in that situation when you're about to present and that you have the blank screen, that death circle on the Mac that drives me dilly. So let's have a look at 6, and there will be more, but 6 different categories of resilience using the reboot acronym. The rest, well, is singularly the most important. So it's singularly been life-changing for me. How do I deal with my stress is around how do I manage my sleep. So namaste is what we need to do. We need to namaste in bed. And if we need to look at how many hours we choose to stay in bed, because that as a detoxifying mechanism in your brain is exactly what good sleep does. So during the day, wakefulness is actually toxifying. So the number of hours that you're awake, you will produce a toxin called beta amyloid, and that beta amyloid develops plaque between your brain. So plaque between your neurons. So those of us who were at the last fantastic PSASA conference heard me speak a lot about sleep. And I think if I could wave a magic wand in the world of resilience, I would say be single-minded about how you self-manage your nights. In terms of the stages of sleep, some of you may have seen this before, but this was life-changing for me, is when I learned that stage 3 and stage 4 sleep is the deep-seated sleep that is rejuvenating. I started to focus on how do I get more of stage 3 and stage 4, because stage 1 and stage 2 is just light, and you don't flush out the beta amyloid toxin. You also do not wake up refreshed and feeling vibrant to go, and that kind of beautiful creative start to the day where you plan something quite explicitly with a client, and then a new idea pops to mind, and you think, let me take some pipe cleaners with me, or balloons, or something to do that's more interactive and more engaging, even though I'm speaking to actuarial scientists. So those fun techniques of getting true engagement going will happen as you wake up in the morning if you've had a very deep, restful sleep. The 3 personal World Economic Forum soft skills that I keep on looking at is, what are my complex problem solving skills like, what's my creativity like, and what's my conflict resolution like. So those are 3 that I work on, and I do find after a good night's sleep, in terms of not being impatient, managing conflict situations, and looking at how do I solve problems differently, it's a no-brainer, literally, that when you've had 3 or 4 cycles of deep stage sleep, you will wake up feeling refreshed. So as speakers, what's the quick win technique? You don't manage what you don't measure. So there are many apps out there, and I would suggest to you that this is a simple one and a great one, Sleep Cycle. And there are many different dimensions to this one. But there you go. So you can see actually, and I'm going to be very honest with you here. And this was last night, you can see, and it was mine. I'd had a very stressful day. People that are close to me here, Charlotte and Ian, know that I lost my mum-in-law yesterday, and it was a very stressful day. She has had Alzheimer's for many years, and we've been nursing her for the last 2 weeks constantly. So why do I share this with you is because I got to bed at about 9:30. I switched on Sleep Cycle 20 to 10 as I closed my eyes, and I fell into a deep, deep sleep. I was absolutely shattered beyond shattered. And then my hubby came to bed at about 11:30, 12, and you can see this was lying next to my bed in airplane mode. But he made a lot of noise. Understandably, he's distraught, and it picked up all of that. So it's interesting. I will place it in a different place. We normally go to bed at the same time, and there's no noise after we've switched off lights, etc., etc. So I share that with you because it's interesting. When I woke up and looked at my stats this morning, I felt really very, very well rested. Last night, by the time I got to bed, I felt so drained, tired, and depleted that I actually thought I was going to faint before I got to my bedroom. That's how drained I was. So when I woke up this morning, I had a gratitude moment of, gee, I feel so vastly different to this, going to bed last night. And then I looked at those stats and I thought, I didn't sleep in that deep stage 3 and stage 4 sleep, and then worked out kind of what had happened around me. So try it and see if it works for you. I'm not a big gadget girl. I'm kind of less is more person. And I'm also, even in my days of running comrades, I didn't run with heart rate monitors or special devices. I ran with the Turner Rand watch. And I am very determined about keeping my life gadget free. And in fact, to the point where I insist on not having emails come through to my phone. I ring fence certain gadgets. My phone is for my phone, my email is for my email, and I don't mix the two. So I say this because I'm not a person who has a meditation app and this app and a fitness app and a whatever. I don't do any of that stuff. So I'm just saying it from an authentic perspective, is if you're not going to really get interested in what kind of sleep you're having, you're probably not going to shift your habits. So what about cognitive behavior therapy? What are the things that you could do? The red glasses, some of you have seen. I've got a pair here. This is my passion killer. Gavin, my husband, can't stand these, but I love them. And I go red an hour before I go lala. So the research and the science behind this is indisputable, is that the blue light from these lights, so, even this light next to me, to any device goes into your eye, into your pineal gland, and your pineal gland says, hey, do not produce melatonin for that stage 3 or stage 4 sleep, because this is still wakeful time. So when we lived, I'll take those off. When we lived in the felt, of course, the circadian rhythm was wake up in the morning to a beautiful red sunrise, go to sleep to a beautiful red sunset, make some fire, and then go lala. Well, of course, with the digital distractions, we don't do that anymore. And we need to look at how we can start to self-monitor our circadian rhythms. So if there's one thing you're going to do is the red glasses is certainly a way to go in terms of deep, restful sleep. But there are other cognitive behavior therapies where you can start to self-manage. Self-manage being a pillar of EQ is actually look at your nighttime routine. So during the day, we're normally thinking, in 3 or 4 different dimensions in terms of what we're currently doing with the client, what the next situation is, etc., etc. You need to learn to calm your brain down. So Epsom salts, very cheap, very user-friendly. And when I get into the bath at night in an Epsom salts bath or even into the shower, is I actually process the day. And I try and turn some of the obstacles or what didn't go well or bad feedback or whatever into a kind of let that go and not hang on to it. And then secondly, gratitude. So I'm sure many of you know, but gratitude actually does change the hardwiring in the brain. And we've got some lovely MRI research now on Buddhists, etc., who are really big into their gratitude practice. Lavender on your pillow is simple. Traveling to different hotels and venues, staying over, as I take a bottle of lavender oil. Smells, our senses are really affected by obviously hearing and smell. So just that calming down, either in your bath and or on your pillow, is a way of cognitively forming a kind of a link into your brain as to, even though foreign environment, it's a smelly, stuffy room with thatch on, it looks all pretty dirty, but I'm going to be able to sleep tonight. So that's fairly simple and quite a game changer as well. Then the anxiety that many of us have, we've flown into a city, we've got to the venue quite late, we've checked out the room and set up, and now we know we've got a really early start, is that sherbet, I'm probably not going to get the required sleep that I need, or the client dinner ended really late, etc., is to really just manage your own anxiety around what time am I getting to sleep. And I hope after this very entertaining or somewhat, difficult client dinner, that I can switch off. So turn your clock the other way, do some deep breathing, meditate or pray, whatever is your practice, but you've got to start to be very vociferous about what am I doing to make sure that this internal dialogue is not going to be overly stimulated or drive you into a frenzy of what still needs to be done before the morning. Your room is for 3 things only: sex, sleep, and reading. So if you are doing anything else, eating, working in your room, watching TV, etc., please do not. And then I have found a vast difference from wearing a sleep mask. I've got slatted blinds in my room, so for me it was quite dark. I started wearing this sleep mask, or the green one that's on the slide there, and I thought, I wonder if that will make any difference, because my eyes don't feel like they're detecting light at night. But in fact, it has made a difference. So a pitch dark room. And I think now there's a hard wiring to say this feels comforting. And when I travel, I absolutely travel with my sleep masks as well. So just figure it out for yourself, but your room should be absolutely dark. When I travel, I also travel with some earplugs in case I'm in a hotel room next to noisy people. The temperature of the room is particularly important. If we put our heater on now in Johannesburg just before we go to bed, but that's completely switched off and maybe a window left open for fresh air so that your room is really nice and cool. So rather layer up the duvet and blankies, but make sure that you do not sleep in a heated room. I'm sure you agree, if you've done that, you wake up with this brain fog, musty feeling in your head. Supplements, it is a no-go from a caffeine, I'll start there, perspective. Caffeine has got a long half-life. Tea, coffee, green tea, please do not have any form of caffeine after 2 o'clock if you are planning to go to bed between 9 and 10 p.m. So it's got about an 8-hour half-life in your body. And even decaf coffee is decaf, yes, but it's hydrochloric acid to decaffeinate it. And it's only got 30% less caffeine. So it really could affect you getting into that deep, slow way of restorative sleep. Magnesium as a supplement is a must for sleep. Magnesium is responsible for about 340 different processes in your body, and one of them is restful state and for sleep. Alcohol, I know many of us at the end of a hard day of speaking and conferencing, a good whiskey or 5 is a way to go. A good whiskey is fine, but not 5. A good glass of red wine is fine, but not a bottle. So don't, be using it to obliterate the day. Use your alcohol to celebrate the day. So 1 or 2 glasses is cool. It will affect your sleep. So when I play around with my own sleep patterns, I just find even a glass for me affects me. But again, it's mindfulness as to your own state and how you feel. On to the E for eat for us as speakers and travelers. Convenience foods, rubbish conference foods are a no-go. So the more naturally you can eat in terms of what can I pick off a tree, pluck out the ground, what is as close to nature as possible is the way to go. That is no news to any of you. But as a speaker, I am always prepared. So I carry around these kinds of things. Oopsie, that's the wrong way around. So these soups, this happens to be gluten-free, and I just find if I'm absolutely starving, or if there's a technical issue in the room and everyone's gone out for lunch and I'm the next speaker and they're trying to sort something out with my dreaded Mac, is at least I've got boiling water and a sachet and I'm good to go. I also buy the Woolies date balls, the small nut packets. I take nice teas with me, and I just make sure that I'm absolutely self-sufficient in terms of eating, especially with plane delays. I don't know about you guys, but so often I've sat on a plane and the plane's been delayed for 2 hours and we've sat not moving off the tarmac. I want to pull my hair out. And I certainly, from a self-management perspective, low blood pressure is what I have, low blood sugar on top of the low blood pressure, and I am an animal. So I certainly look at how I can manage that really, really well. And especially on overseas flights. I don't have any alcohol on an overseas flight. I rehydrate really well. And in fact, on that point, when I'm traveling internationally to speak, is that I'm very mindful of my sleep patterns 3 nights before I go. So in terms of self-compassion, I just make sure that I don't have any social engagements. That resilience preparation before international flights is as important as what you eat and do on the flight. So if you get onto that flight well rested, it's a vastly different feeling as to how you get off the flight. In my younger years, when I was go, go, go and very little self-management, I used to have a kind of internal dialogue that went, okay, Joni, just work, 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 see everybody, do as much as you can. And on that flight, you can just have a 12-hour or 11-hour sleep to the UK and you'll be absolutely good to go when you get off there. Not the case. So I'm really, really very strict on my own sleep police as to how many hours I get before I travel. On the eating side, I am more and more studying issues around epigenetics. I'm studying really how we can self-manage in a way that's no longer keto, Banting, etc., etc. So if I had to say one thing to all of us is that know what your body likes, and perhaps ask your mum or your dad if they're still around, or granny and grandpa if they're still around, is what did they eat? So genetically, we're hardwired to metabolize some foods and not others. And then the last point, which would be a whole nother virtual meeting, would be around gut health. So 65% of your happy hormone, your serotonin, is made in the gut. And if you don't have the right bacteria in your gut and you're not having fermented foods, etc., etc., A, you won't absorb your supplements, but B, actually that affects the inflammation in the entire body. So there's a lot to food, but I'm going to keep that short and snappy. And also to say that I am very, I have a sweet tooth. I love chocolate and I love cheesecake and I love any kind of cake and biscuits and rusks. And hand on heart this afternoon, and yes, it's been, the issues of dealing with emotions the last few days. This afternoon, I was on a webinar with people in Dubai on emotional intelligence. And as I sat down at 4:45 for that one, I wasn't presenting, I was just listening, but I was like, oh, a packet of biscottis or rusks now, that would just be yummier than yummy with my tea. And I don't have them. Because I just am not always my best friend, and I can't mindfully stop at 1 or 2 biscottis. That entire packet will go while I'm listening to an hour's webinar. So make sure that you've got good stuff around you, and that's all at eye level. It's so trivial and so small, but it's really important, because in the moments of weakness, you're not going to be putting rubbish food in your mouth. Let's speak about breathe. It's something that I find from a vocal perspective we need to do. We know that as speakers, but we also need to do because of the stress and the demands that we have as a speaker. So before I go on stage, I oxygenate my brain so that I don't have brain freeze, which is not always a guarantee, but I literally go and do a press up in the ladies' bathroom. So I stand up against the wall, hands out here, and I do a standing press up. While I do that standing press up is I use Dr. McCullough's 4-7-8 breathing technique. I find this, when I say a tool in my toolbox that I can't live without, it sounds dramatic, but it's that important to me. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 7 counts, and then slowly out for 8 counts. So the ratio is what's important, not so much the actual numbers. And the ratio is just so that you expel that stale air at the bottom of your lungs. You fill up your lungs, and you'll actually find, if you're doing the press up, you're changing your body posture. I'm sure you all know Amy Cuddy's research from Harvard around body posture change and how that elevates your testosterone level. And us ladies have that. And it decreases your cortisol level, which is our stress level. So that little technique for me is 2 in 1. It changes my posture, and the breathing actually oxygenates my brain. Plus, I find I use this technique a lot when I've just finished designing something, and then I need to go into a meeting of sorts, or vice versa, is I ring fence what I'm doing. So very often our brain carries on percolating and designing and thinking when we're trying to be present, taking a client brief, and they could be long-winded and pretty boring, some clients. So I use 4-7-8 to really self-manage being present and being in the moment. And it's a fantastic, what I call a windscreen wiper for the brain. Get the muck out of a previous meeting and be focused in the current meeting. I do a lot of 4-7-8 breathing when I'm driving to a client through Johannesburg traffic, and there's a roadblock on William Nicol, which is unexpected, and I just can't get to Sandton, etc., etc. So you Cape Townians, you have traffic issues as well. So that's the breathe technique. More and more, I've learned to take a lunch break and to ground myself. So this is gorgeous green grass in summer in Johannesburg. We don't have that at the moment, but I find it absolutely a different way to spend my afternoon if I take that 20 minutes, and I sometimes combine it with a power nap. So power naps are really good, and if none of you are doing that during the day, most of us work from home, is that all you need to do is set your cell phone to go off 20 minutes after you've relaxed. Use your 4-7-8 breathing, wiggle your toes, just imagine all your muscles relaxing from the toes up. And if you can take your shoes off, this isn't the best picture for this, but you actually want to ground yourself so that your body feels the grass and feels the earth. We walk in plastic or leather shoes, and we never actually get to feel the earth. So go barefoot and actually indulge in doing that in the middle of the day. My internal mantra is often, Joni, you don't have time. You could probably address 5 emails in that time, go, 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 go. But when I give myself permission to relax midday or mid-afternoon, the quality of work that I get done for the rest of the afternoon is fantastic. I also don't kind of drag my knuckles into the lounge and open kitchen area that we have with a kind of, you know, dog-eyed, frazzled feeling at 6:30 or 7 at night. So please try that. It's really small. It's, you know, none of these things are rocket science, and another way to absolutely reboot. The O is for open heart, and the EQ message comes through strongly here. As a helicopter view is just to reiterate that you are born with your IQ. Thank you, mom, dad, and the ancestors. You are born with your personality. So your temperament is hardwired in the brain. The nature-nurture debate is alive and well, but above the level of that seesaw, both of those two aspects of oneself we are born with. Yes, neuroplasticity in the brain can grow and change. Yes, your behavior sets can change dramatically, but for simplicity's sake is that those two are given. What we can change is the emotional quotient fulcrum of the seesaw. How well you know yourself and how well you can integrate and interrelate and build relationships with others. Socrates said, knowing thyself is the beginning of wisdom. And when you know what drains your energy and you know what can reboot you quite quickly, it's a very empowering way to self-manage. And that is certainly emotional intelligence at its best. So I thought I'd just share this with you. In that United Nations meeting on EQ, it was fantastic to hear from the professor who runs the Search Inside Yourself Institute at Google. And fantastic how much time they are spending on their employees really knowing themselves. So the three intersecting circles are pretty obvious: emotional intelligence, mindfulness, and neuroscience. And I love the fact that they are saying, actually, when we start to look at people and the dimensions around these three big categories of learning, we start to shift people's behavior. So they train people within Google and they train clients, and so it's an open institute run by a professor. The next slide is going to show you some research from SAP and looking at some of the competencies when you start to go on this kind of program and this kind of journey. So I'm not going to go through all of those dimensions, but you can see that stress in the epicenter there has dropped by 7%, very nice, and well-being has grown by 9.2%. So the dimensions of self-management really do come through when you start to understand your body and how the neuroscience works and how you emotionally intelligently manage yourself. So this whole kind of no time to go to do any exercise, no time to have a break during the day, no time to prepare good food, no time to whatever is a whole lot of bull dust, excuse the French. This is another offer for you, EQ managed by 6 Seconds, which is a multinational network. They're in 176 countries. I work with all of their assessments. What I do have, which is a free assessment, so if you send me your email details on my website or on my email, I'll give it to you at the end, I can simply send you this assessment and you'll get this report. And if we have a look at the competencies summarized, it's about knowing yourself, choosing yourself, and giving yourself. This particular person, you can see that their know yourself dimension is particularly good, but they choose their self, which would be applying consequential thinking, exercising optimism. So some other ways of managing your energy is not as good as knowing themselves. And then the very smallest dimension, give yourself, which is living a purpose-driven life and using empathy, is not good at all. The report is self-explanatory. I won't need to go through it with you. It's 1 page. At the bottom, those 3 icons are self-explanatory as well, the blue, the red, and the green, and it will give you specific action steps for improving your EQ. So 6 Seconds have a big, hairy, audacious goal that 1 billion people will understand emotional intelligence by the year 2033. It's a big, hairy, audacious goal. I'm certainly, as a .org organization, working hard with them, doing free World Cafe events, etc., so that we do spread the word. And I thought I'll just share that as a great and simple, empowering report for each of you to get. In terms of moving, I promised no jogging, juicing, or yoga. what I'd like to say here from a speaker's perspective is that we need to really have micro bursts of activity. So what are you doing during your day? If it's a desk-bound admin day, what are you doing? If you're presenting, of course, you're on your feet, which is great. But I'm talking about the times that we are not on stages. What are we doing? So sitting on a ball is a great idea. I do that. I also set my mobile to go off every hour. So I have a great ability to get down and to focus when I have chosen a particular thing to focus on. And then 2 or 3 hours can go by and I simply don't move. So Charlotte did mention this earlier, that we absolutely need to move. If you sit for longer than 2 hours, your good cholesterol goes down by 20%. So sitting is the new smoking. What are you doing to shift your body posture? Even just stand up and stretch. I've got trampolines that I use, which I'll also show you now. And then I thought I would bring into the call one of my besties, which is this chap over here. Let me move back a little bit. It's a roller. It's empty. Hollow is the word, not empty. For us, those of us that travel, you can slip a little bottle of wine into this and put that into your suitcase, and your wine will not break no matter what happens to your luggage. So the roller as my bestie, I have not gone to physio for my back in years. I don't want to exaggerate, but I can't even remember the last time I went for my back specifically. I'm going at the moment for a broken foot that I did a few weeks ago, which is debilitating. Standing and presenting with a moon boot and with crutches, that's horrible. So I can't fix that with my roller. But this roller, I will not travel anywhere. After the PSASA conference, going to Jordan, I was trying to travel really light. I still travel with this roller. I just find in terms of that our backs do take strain if we're standing a lot, or as a restful way of ending the day is I lie on this roller. And it's just crack, crack, crack. You feel your back kind of iron itself out. You feel the muscles relax down either side of the spine. It's the most beneficial move tool that I have. So this literally is my bestie. It goes everywhere with me. I take it on any holiday, any weekend. If I go for one night away, that's certainly packed in my suitcase. Then what else? I was going to show you, these you can get online. It's a tiny little ball. I just find that sometimes sitting, I get cramp, or I get like a little backache when I'm driving. So I have these like funny little, this is a very hard tool, but I have it one on my desk, I have one in my car. So I actually self-manage by putting it behind my back, and it's quite a lot of fun. So have these little, yes?
Just a question here from Bruce Wade. He wants to explain in a bit more detail what you do with the roller.
Okay, cool. So I actually put this on the floor, and then I put it specifically under my lower back, Bruce. And then I use my heels to push myself up the roller and down the roller. So it actually massages from my neck right down to my coccyx. So I roll my back out that way, and then I'll similarly will put it under my right thigh, and I'll roll right from my ankles right up to my hips, and I'll do it under my left thigh as well. So it just gets those cracks out so beautifully. Does that answer your question? I see a nod.
I think so.
Okay. So those you can get at a Sportsman's Warehouse, those kinds of places. Please don't buy the blue, soft, spongy ones. Those are for wusses, and speakers are not wusses. So those you get from Dischem, they're not beneficial. I mean, you're going to roll on them, and it's not going to do you any good. This, you might cry, Bruce, the first time that you do it, but cowboys should cry. And then you start to get used to it. It's tough to get used to because it's a PVC pipe with a little bit of padding around the edge. But please get a tough one like this as opposed to sponge. Sponge is not beneficial. Certainly in my experience, it's not. Okay, then on to back to the neuroscience of moving. That brain on the right, I know that red is often a bad color to use, and we think, oh my goodness, the brain is on fire. No, that's your brain firing on all cylinders after a 20-minute walk. So I don't advocate the gym. I find gyms particularly boring and whatever. I go out of necessity if I can't go for a run or a walk outside and it's jolly cold at 5 o'clock in the morning in Johannesburg, so then I have to go to a gym. But if I can say to us explicitly that the World Health Organization says we need 150 cardio minutes a week. Break it up. If you're doing 20 minutes a day, you are going to do really well. So please don't think I've got to go to the gym 3 hours a week or 3 times a week for an hour. I don't do that. I can literally go to the gym for 20 minutes at a time. I have chosen, because of being time poor, to go to a very small, private, non-fancy, kind of little hole-in-the-wall gym, which is luckily 2 streets away from me, so I can get there very quickly. Because for me, it's about how do I get in and out quickly. I don't want to wait for any equipment if I have to go, but I want to be able to do these small bite-sized chunks. So the World Health Organization is releasing a lot of studies at the moment about moving. We live a sedentary lifestyle and it's making us fatter. We need to look at how do we move for small amounts of time, but to do that frequently. So now with my broken foot, let me tell you, I've got all sorts of fun activities I can do on my lounge floor by watching Sky News. I've got some dumbbells that I do my roller, I do some kind of scissor sit-up things. So I've been quite inventive about not putting any pressure on my foot. And I don't even do it for 20 minutes in totality because I get bored easily. But I will do, certainly before I get into my shower in the morning, I'll do a 7 to 8 minute little on my bedroom floor, on the lounge floor workout. At night, I don't exercise because it activates my brain, but some people find it's good to release the day. So you'll find out what's good for you. The rebounder, those of you at the conference saw that. The NASA research is if you rebound for 2 minutes, it's equivalent to a 6-minute run, a 10-minute walk, or a 22-minute swim. So I can say hand on heart that for various reasons, I did not do more than 1 marathon to train for 2 Oceans, which is a 56-kilometer race. And I needed to do 3 marathons. So my marathon to qualify for that race was the 10th of November in Stellenbosch. And then I ran the 56-kilometer ultra marathon on the 20th of April this year. No broken feet yet. And why do I say this to you? Because time-wise, I did not have the time to put in distance training. So it was very interesting for me to see would I have the cardio fitness to run a 56-kilometer ultra marathon with only 1 marathon in November last year. Most people say, Joni, it's not going to be a good idea. Well, let me tell you, my cardio was absolutely fine. So in leading up to that, I was clearly setting my cell phone to go 4 or 5 times a day and doing about 5 minutes at a time. But that's still pretty good in terms of time manageability. And I never bounce without listening to a good podcast. And there's fantastic podcasts in my era of speciality around biohacking, et cetera, et cetera. So it's time well spent. But that's certainly another bestie of mine. I've got 2 of those. Okie dokes, let's talk about taking supplements. And unfortunately, we're not living like Granny and Grandpa, and our soils are depleted. So I would say to you that the must take supplements, first of all, is omega-3, twice a day for your brain. The brand that I use is it's from Strong. So I put her website address at the bottom there. And it's reasonable. It's a very good quality omega-3 because it's pretty daunting to go to Dis-Chem and look at those shelves groaning with supplements. What I take, what's a better brand, et cetera, et cetera. So you can get many supplements from Dr. Poltz, who has that particular website, and she's excellent. If any of you are in Johannesburg and need a one-on-one session with her, I would highly recommend it. She's incredibly reasonable. She's incredibly down to earth. And she certainly has managed some of my supplement deficiencies. And what I love about her is you're not going to a practitioner and now walking out with a huge paper bag of stuff that you go, oh my goodness, this is too daunting to take or too daunting to replenish. She's a less is more woman, which I really like. So omega-3 Vitamin C in winter now, we have had a terrible flu bug that's people have been down and out. I get the good old cheap and nasty, which is the no-name brand here from Dischem. It's 1,000 milligrams. Let me orientate that. And I prefer the buffered vitamin C because it gets straight into your bloodstream very quickly. And I am taking sometimes, if I'm around sick people, and I have been in the nursing home of late, very, very sick people with bronchitis and pneumonia, is that I take 6,000 milligrams a day. Your body gets rid of what you don't want, so you can't overdose on vitamin C. Vitamin D, even though we live in a beautiful sunny country, and we've got Swakopmund here in a beautiful sunny country, is that we lathe ourselves in sun protection, and we don't spend a lot of time outside. So many of us are vitamin D deficient. So that might be a must-have as well. And then I also find personally that when I'm feeling fatigued, I take, oh, Joan, get it right, I take burnout. I have no stake in the company. I'm not trying to punt people's stuff that there's any stake for me. But burnout as a multivitamin, and it's packed with all sorts of things. It's also packed with licorice that you don't get in a lot of different multivitamins. And licorice for me, in terms of managing my blood sugar and blood pressure, is particularly good. And I can wake up honestly feeling a bit like groggy if it's you know, whatever, not a good night's sleep or just day on day traveling. And 2 of those burnouts, they're kind of green bombing tablets, and I'm really good to go. The other thing that I'm doing quite religiously, I am paranoid about Alzheimer's, and I'm paranoid about the fact that it starts to, the plaque in the brain is happening 20 years before we see the symptoms. So MCT oil is what I'm putting in my coffee in the morning, that you get from Dischem as well. And if you don't like the kind of oiliness in your coffee, make a salad dressing out of it, put it into a soup. But I would say this is, I put it under optional. But for me, when I'm traveling now, I'll decant this and put it into a smaller liquid type bottle to take wherever I go. So MCT oil, in terms of looking after the brain, is fantastic. It's a medium chain triglyceride, and it is ketogenic. So if you're into ketogenic, I'm also doing a lot of experimenting on intermittent fasting. So I have that in my coffee with a tablespoon of butter in the morning, and that can keep me going till about 11, 12. So I've got a big window where my body can self-authorize any inflammation or bad cells, and I'm finding that that really works for me. I'm speaking over this at a superficial, very quick level, really, really happy to help anyone who is investigating intermittent fasting. Glutamine is something I take religiously every day as well. I put it as optional, but gut health is what it's for. And then as a speaker, I find the minute I get a scratchy throat, I pump up that vitamin C, and I have zinc on hand. Zinc is a real must-have in terms of throat health. So before traveling, I boost all of that. I have 0 alcohol. I put Bactaban in my nose, and certainly when I'm on the plane, I take nutritional stuff to snack on as well. So that is the taking supplements. So where are we now? It's about saying, okay, what is your strategy? How well do you know yourself? What are your challenges? And I thought, I've been having fun. It's 7:30, my goodness gracious. Let's break out into some breakout groups, if you don't mind, Ian. And my challenge for you is to say, out of the 6 kind of big topics I had, which one, because in terms of habit stacking, is you need to really just be mindful about which one tickled your fancy. Even if for Bruce, it's just getting the roller, that's absolutely a good enough thing to take away from tonight. So what you want to take away that's going to link to something that you're doing, and I'll just build on the roller and Bruce, is that even if you set yourself right, I'm going to habit stack that. What I mean by that, I'm going to link it as a trigger to a current habit that I have. So Bruce, I'm hoping you're in the habit of brushing your teeth at night. If that's the habit that you have, good. Then you simply link the roller to saying, I'm going to roll for 2 minutes after I brush my teeth at night. So what is the habit stacking you're going to take? And or what are the, a buddy system that you might set up? So it could be that you definitely want to, do this 20-minute walk in the morning. There is no way that I would get out my front gate while it's dark. I feel particularly safe in my suburbs, so it's not a safety issue for me, but I am slack in the morning. I just get distracted to do stuff. I would not get out my front gate if I didn't meet anyone. So the fact that you've got an accountability buddy is the way to go. So how about we break up into smaller groups and think through reboot and what it is that you maybe want to try for yourself to be your first lever into greater resilience and feeling energized.
Good.
Joni,
Joni?
would you mind just quickly repeating what the 6 are?
So I'm actually I designed this especially for tonight, so let me be sure that I do this properly, is that the R is for rest well, the E is for eat well, the B is for breathe, the O is for open your heart. So in what way are you going to self-manage your emotional intelligence? The second O is around moving, and then the T is for taking supplements.
Excellent.
Very good. Thank you. Joni, can we ask you just to stop sharing for now?
Indeed.
Thanks. And we have one question, but just before we go further, Colin Horner would like to know Doctor Who in terms of your supplements. Dr. Strong.
Her name is Dr. Pultz, P-A-U-L-T-Z, and her website is strong.
P-A-U-L-T-Z.
Yeah. But if you go onto that website, you'll see how reasonable those supplements are. And to be honest, I'm sure there must be an online courier service. I just go and collect them. And then you could also, I love the fact that you could set up even a quick session with her to see what you need. So specificity and knowing what you need is important, but you can't go wrong with the omega-3s, certainly in the vitamin D.
Good. All right, we're going to break up into groups now. I just want to do a very quick welcome to people who joined us late. That's Colin Horner from Joburg, Bob Huey from Canada. Welcome, Bob. Alan Black from the US. Welcome, sir. How are you? Jafta popped in there. And then also a speaker from Joburg, a woman called Nsiki. She came in, but she had problems with her sound, so she couldn't get the call to work. We'll help her to get it right next time. But welcome to all of you. All right, so we're going to break up into groups and we'll just give ourselves about 10 minutes or so just to talk and share. And I'm going to let the computer do this all for us so we can see how many, who ends up in the groups. So break into 4 groups. We'll give you a warning when we're ready to come back. Okay.
Great.
There you go, Joni.
Great.
That's right. That's good.
I put them on the other night, rolled over in bed, and Richard leapt out like, ah!
A Martian.
Are you wearing them, Charlotte, at night? You should be going, I go to bed by 9, so I have to have these on now.
Yeah. No, I do wear them sometimes, but I'm just call them a passion killer. So I'm picturing the glasses and then the eye patches and then the earplugs, and I also wear a gum guard because I grind my teeth at night. And it's like nobody's trying to have any more babies or anything like that. All right. Welcome back, everybody. All right, so some feedback from the sessions. Who wants to, we'll just kind of get this random. Who has some insights that they'd like to share that they came back from the breakout rooms? Ian, your side?
let me start with what our group said. So very interesting. We had Jafta was saying definitely the sleep thing. That was the one he wanted to pay attention to. And he says he gets it on the weekend, but not enough during the week. And Richard and I both were saying we've downloaded the app. We're both good at sleeping, so we don't have a problem with that. In fact, I've put a lot of attention into that in the last year or so, and I'm really feeling the benefits of more sleep. But I still don't know what my patterns are, so I think I'm going to switch to get the app going. And then also just another comment, and that is that, Joni, I agree with you on the moving. I do a lot of online work, and I've now set the timer for half an hour to get up and move.
Wow. That's good.
And even
yeah.
if it's just a quick little walk, stretch a little bit and get back again, it's made the world of difference as far as my back's concerned. And then Alan was saying that he has a problem with his leg that no doctor has been able to quite get to the bottom of, but when he does, he wants to take the appropriate action and get some more the right movement for that as well. I think that's us.
Great, thank you.
Who else? The Bruces were together, Bruce Page and Bruce Wade. So let's maybe hear from Bruce Page. Any feedback from your group?
Well, the group consisted of the two Bruces, so it was very insightful discussion. And the one question that came up, Jody, was from myself, which I was a little surprised you mentioned, was hydration.
Yes.
My experience is that very often the consequence of alcohol and coffee and all those sorts of things when the next day in speaking results in a lot of dehydration. I found that drinking is very, very important, as well as the movement. I agree with everything you said. The other thing that resonated with me in particular was your reference to the vitamin stuff, because I suffer from motion sickness, and doctors recommended, traveling in motor cars, if somebody's driving me in a taxi or something like that, I get quite ill. So I found that things like vitamin D, was actually overdoses of vitamin D was prescribed for me by my doctor, and it works well. And a lot of the things that you mentioned helped me with motion sickness. So I think everything that you had to say is really good advice for speakers, because it's a tough job.
Yeah, it is.
On your point, Bruce wants to add a bit.
Yeah, Bruce, on your point, our group, I was with Roger and Bob, and Roger mentioned that while he's waiting for the kettle to boil and make his first cup of coffee in the morning, he has a glass of water. And I should have mentioned that, you're right. So water, to hydrate the brain, 75% of the brain is water. And we should have 1 glass of water, 400 or 500 mils, for every 10 kilograms that we weigh. So we're not all the same. So be mindful of your own weight and how many glasses you need. And certainly to keep the brain really well oiled, your point earlier, Bruce, around enough water as a speaker is important. But the second point there is Roger's point that we wake up in the morning and your brain's gone from a grape to a shriveled raisin. We lose quite a lot of water overnight. And we shouldn't then be having caffeine as the first liquid we take in, because that further dehydrates your brain. So water before coffee in the morning, and then enough water spaced throughout the day.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Melanie, how about from your group?
Yeah. So from our group, Joni, thank you so much. It was all very enlightening. We had quite a bit of a discussion around the food and the exercise. The exercise, again, the roller. I've got a roller and I haven't used it in forever, and then used the fact that I stood up when my foot was asleep as an excuse as to why I couldn't actually do any more exercise. So thank you for that, because there actually is no excuse. There is something, and I really appreciated that. And even Buero, who's pregnant at the moment, was going, oh, you know what, I'll do exercise when, once the baby's here. And I think it just reiterated that we can actually just get up and do a little walk or something. So I think that was quite great. And then we loved the breathing in between, shifting from a mindset to another mindset. And I wish I'd known that when I was in corporate, would have made a tremendous difference, but I'm definitely going to steal that and use that now. And then we just also had quite a lot of discussion around diet and how important your leafy greens are and what it is that you're busy eating. So yeah, all very valid. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Great.
Very good. Which groups haven't we heard from?
Bob and Roger and myself.
Okay, all right. So let's, if Bob can give us some feedback. Hi, Bob.
Roger and I were chatting with Joni, and one of the things I told her, because I came in part way through, and Charlotte, thank you for helping me bypass. When I wanted to sign up, it kept asking for a phone number, and it wouldn't recognize my phone number in Canada, so I couldn't go any farther. So, one of the things that I told Joni I liked was, I know it's just they didn't recognize the Canada phone has phones. Yes, so you know, it's amazing. We're a pretty progressive company. We have phones, and you know, we even horses that deliver mail and everything. But I told her that I enjoyed the idea of the red glasses, because a lot of times at night I am either reading before I go to bed or watching TV or chatting with my wife, and then I go to bed. I'm tired because I'm falling asleep in my lazy boy, and then I go to bed and I don't go to sleep right away. So I'm going to see if I can find a pair and give that a shot. So thank you for that.
Yeah, very good. All right. Have I covered all the groups? Good. All right. So I just want to kind of reiterate that as well, Bob. Having a kind of a bedtime routine is really important, and I'm trying to work on that myself. I'm really bad at that. And Richard's away at the moment. He's in Johannesburg, which means that I break all the rules and I do all the wrong things. And I've got a cup of something here, and Joni's wondering whether it's, you know,
no caffeine.
What exactly is that, Charlotte? And I'm not going to tell you. Mariette's raised her hand. Mariette, you have a question or comment you want to make?
I just want to say that I got one of those red glasses during last year's mini conference or interim conference, and I used it, and Joni, it made a huge difference in my life. If I actually put it on in the evenings, it slows me down, and I actually create a desire to sleep fairly quickly, and if I fall asleep, I sleep extremely deep. That was one of the best investments I've made.
Yeah, I have to reiterate. I'm also going to be honest with you. The thing that I don't like about the red glasses is exactly your phraseology. Is it gets you, you got about 74 muscles around your eyes, and actually in the lower lid, you've got these glial glands which absorb a lot of the white light from LED. So I find by wearing the red glasses is that I get into a relaxed state quite quickly. So my ability to read my novel at night has diminished from about 10 pages to 2 pages. So that's the only thing that irritates me. I get so relaxed as I'm just not getting through my novels. I literally am reading a page or two maximum a night before I drop off.
Yeah.
Could I just ask you, where do you buy those red glasses? I've never actually seen them in the store. Where do you buy them?
We sell them off our website. So we're actually doing, this Friday is winter solstice, so the longest night. So we're doing a campaign where you can save, I actually don't know, I'll be lying, but we're doing a package if you want to have a look at that on our website. And then I said to Bob, you know, in Canada, if you Googled red tinted glasses, you would come across different suppliers as well.
Is it? I'll have a look at your website. Thank you.
All right. Maybe Joni, when you get that ready, you can send us some information and we'll just send out a communication to everyone.
Okay, great.
I'll do that. All right, good.
Great.
Okay, folks, we need to wrap up. I just want to, you know, just reiterate again, although this is about ourselves, and this conversation could apply to anybody. As professional speakers, like I said, we have this immense pressure on ourselves while we're engaging with people. And if we can take care of ourselves physically better, we'll do better jobs, and our experience will be better. We'll have more fun. We can make more progress with our businesses at the other times, and that really is worthwhile. And then I just want to just tell you this one story quickly about no alcohol when you travel. I am a really serious lightweight. I'm a very cheap date when it comes to drinking. I can, you know, be out after one glass. But the first time I traveled overseas by myself for business many, many years ago, I'm on the airplane. I feel all like big stuff because I'm going overseas by myself, and this is on business, and it's so cool. And I thought I am allowed to have a glass of wine, and it'll be really cool if I had a glass of wine and then I could relax and I could sleep nicely, and then I'll be rested on the way there. So I had a glass of wine, but I've never tried this before online, in an airplane at least. And my blood pressure dropped. I don't know what happened to my blood sugar, and I fainted. I passed out on the airplane. I had to have oxygen masks, and I was lying on the floor in the steward section at the back of the airplane with my feet up against the wall of the airplane. An absolute scene and drama. And just to make things worse, that is not the last time I fainted on the airplane. So now I've set a bit of a precedent, and now when anything goes wrong, if I take a painkiller or anything on an airplane, I pass out. And then I go ahead and I marry the only other person that I know who also faints on airplanes. So the two of us are not safe to travel with. So there are many, many reasons for us really understanding ourselves well and taking good care of ourselves physically, because it spills over into so many other elements of our lives and our careers. So Joni, thank you so much for challenging us again, for reminding us of some things that are important, and for bringing to our attention some areas that we didn't know we should be paying attention to. And we thank you, although we tease you and you tease us back again, we thank you for, you know, holding that banner all the time in all our meetings and being consistent in terms of the message that you're sharing. We really do appreciate it. All right, folks, thank you. We're going to wrap up very quickly. Joni, sorry, do you want to say anything to end, Joni?
I just said thank you for the opportunity. Feel free to contact. So Charlotte, I think it's easier if people just, should I give you my email address if there are any questions? Or
yes,
how?
we certainly do.
Okay, so
just tell us now and we will share it as well, and we can put it into the chat box. Will someone put it into the Zoom box, into the chat box for us? So Joni, what's your email address?
JONI at B for Barry, BIZ, C for cat, OMM for mother.co.za.
Great. And we'll have that there. It is in the chat box. Great. Thank you very much, Joni. We really appreciate that.
Pleasure. Thank you, Charlotte.
Good. And just a reminder again, Joni is our deputy president, so she's going to be coming in as president next year. So make sure you hold on to her email address so that you can send her suggestions and ideas, and volunteer to go onto any committees that she runs or any help that she needs. We all need to, you know, work together to create this. Folks, thank you very much for a lovely meeting. Really enjoyed it. And this was at a different time of the month from normal, but we have a few other meetings lined up, speakers from around the world, and we'll let you know those as soon as we can tie them down. But because it's a virtual meeting, we get to be a bit flexible. So we thank you, Joni, for your availability during this time in your family's life, and for sharing with us. All right, everybody. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Hello.
Sleep well.
Thanks, Bob, for joining us. Thanks, Alan, for joining us. And thanks, Brunt is gone. But thanks to Brunt as well. It's our international meeting tonight. Good night, everyone.